Our common sense has been rigged. You think there's a real difference between self and other, but self, what you call yourself and what you call other, are mutually necessary to each other, like back and front. They're really one. All people are manifestations, disguises of the total reality behind this cosmos. So don't differentiate yourself and stand off against this and say, I am a living organism in a world made of a lot of dead junk, rocks and stuff. It all goes together. Those rocks are just as much you as your fingernails. You need rocks. What are you going to stand on?
And all kinds of classification where we say, well, it's animal, vegetable, mineral, it's this, that, and the other thing, is putting it in boxes and tidying it up. It's how you tidy up. You put everything away in a box. And then you have boxes inside boxes and all that sort of thing. It's tidied up. But when it's all put away in boxes, you can't see it. Instead of putting everything in boxes, let's just look at it the way it comes. To use a phrase of G.K. Chesterton's, but now a great thing in the street seems any human nod, where move in strange democracy the million masks of God. The world as seen in an ordinary, everyday state of consciousness, to find out that that is really no different from the world of supreme ecstasy. That you are really a playing of this one energy, and there is nothing else but that it is you. Zhuangzi said, the perfect man employs his mind as a mirror. It grasps nothing, it refuses nothing, it receives but does not keep. In other words, this is to be, put it very strictly into our modern idiom, this is to live without hang-ups. That is to say, to be able to drift like a cloud and flow like water. Seeing that all life is a magnificent illusion, a playing of energy, and there is absolutely nothing fundamentally to be afraid of.
And so when you see the world as complicated, and that there are life problems, and that you might one day succeed. See, hundreds and hundreds of people are running like mad after something that they call that is success, and they have no idea what it is. Now then, there's something else. When you understand that, and when you realize that there's nothing to realize, well, it's all here, then what are you going to do?
Human behavior is just like everything else. It never makes a mistake. But to be liberated is to be able to see human life in the same way as you see all other life. And to do that, you have to be able to live, as it were, on two levels. The level of involvement and the level of detachment.
So experience polarizes itself as self and other, but it's all one. So everybody says, all right, know yourself, look within, find out who you are. Because the harder you look, you won't be able to find it. And then you'll realize that it isn't there at all. There isn't a separate you. Your mind is what there is. Everything.
And when you try to talk about the processes of nature, what is complicated is not the processes of nature, but trying to put them into words. That's as complicated as trying to drink up the ocean with a fork. And what a great thing it is not to dissect the world with your analytical intellect. To be able to look out at the water or the trees or at the floor and the light on it in front of you without calling it light or floor or trees or thinking that it has parts or thinking that it's complicated. It isn't.
We feel strangers and aliens in this world And this is terribly plausible. Simply because it's what we're used to. That's the only reason. But when you really start questioning this, say, is that the way I have to assume life is? I know everybody does, but does that make it true? It doesn't necessarily. It ain't necessarily so.
And by possessing that faculty, which is self-consciousness, is being able to reflect upon one's own life, we are able to go to a level at which our own life is seen in its total context in the universe. To realize that yourself is not your ego, which is the standpoint at which you are involved in your game and taking sides, but yourself is the eternal, immeasurable reality that is what there is. Because life, as one looks at it, you see, is in fact a celebration of itself. When you look out at night at the stars and you really wonder, good God, what is all that about? Well, it's a firework display. And it's celebrating High Holy Day. And it's whoopee. And the whole world is whoopee.
But in the mythology that we've sold ourselves on during the end of the 19th century, when people discovered how big the universe was, and that we live on a little planet in a solar system on the edge of a galaxy, which is a minor galaxy, everybody thought, we're really unimportant after all. And we put ourselves down, see? But actually, it's this little funny microbe, tiny thing, crawling on this little planet that's way out somewhere, who has the ingenuity, by nature of this magnificent organic structure, to evoke the whole universe out of what would otherwise be mere quanta. There's jazz going on. But you see, this little ingenious organism is not merely some stranger in this. This little organism on this little planet is what the whole show is growing there, and so realizing its own presence. Does it through you. And you're it.
One person can't change the world, but one person carrying a message can change the world.
Willie Nelson is a living legend. He established himself as one of the greats by becoming a leading inspiration for the outlaw country subgenre that emerged in the late 60s. Since then, he's recorded 74 solo albums and 26 collaborative albums, been inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, has won 12 Grammy Awards and been nominated for 57. And at 91 years old, he is still playing shows and writing songs today. With so much talent, both on stage and in the studio, his career as an author is often overlooked. In 2007, he published the book The Tao of Willie, where he relates experiences in his life to the philosophy of the Tao Te Ching, one of those being the power of the present moment.
I have this kind of philosophy that I can't do anything about what happened yesterday or what's going to happen tomorrow. But I feel like I'm full control of what's going on now. It's all about the same thing, about now, how are things now? You look okay, I look okay, you folks are all right. Why bitch about anything? You're not hungry, you're not cold, you're not wet, neither am I. You know, we've got plenty of food, we're not sick, so right now everything is fine. And if you continue to live in the now, then things will be okay after a while. I wrote a song called Delete and Fast Forward, and I think that's where we're at now. We have to just kind of forget it. You can't do anything about what happened over here. You can't do anything about what's going to happen tomorrow. The only thing we can do anything about is right now. And so if we live that way, we'll do something.
Another song full of Willie's wisdom is One Day at a Time, where he reflects on the same principle.
I wrote a song called One Day at a Time. Do you ever hear that song?
I have, yes.
I live one day at a time. I dream one dream at a time. Yesterday's dead and tomorrow is lying, and I live one day at a time. And I still believe that's the way to live. There's nothing I can do about yesterday. There ain't nothing I can do about tomorrow. But right now, I'm pretty much in control. So this is the day that I'm living, and it's the only one that really matters right now.
And Willie truly does align himself with the song's principle, which certainly became a driving force to Willie's longevity. From carpal tunnel syndrome, repeated instances of pneumonia and emphysema, a collapsed lung, to his son taking his own life in 1991, there's no doubt Willie has had his fair share of hardships. Despite the adversity, he's managed to stay positive through troubled times. Willie claims this is a key factor to his longevity.
Why not worry will make you sick? I've never seen it accomplish anything. I've never seen worrying about anything change it. So I decided not to do it. If you can't do anything about it, why the hell worry about it? Every negative thought you have releases poison into your system and will kill you or give you cancer or tumors or whatever else you can think of. So if you're thinking negative about anything, erase that.
What's the secret of your longevity?
Oh, I think thinking positive, being glad you're here, being glad you woke up again, and try to make the day worthwhile. I believe in doing something every day to pay for the day, whether it's physical, mental, or whatever.
Perhaps doing something positive every day is not only responsible for the length of his life, but also his career. Energy Follows Thought, released in 2022, contains a profound message which is largely responsible for the manifestation of Willie's destiny.
Yeah, I wrote a song called Energy Follows Thought. Starts out, imagine what you want, and then get out of the way. Because energy follows thought, so be careful what you say.
I believe in imagining what you want and then get out of the way. I think if you follow that, imagine, get up every day and say, here's what I'd like to see happen today, and then get out of the way and let it happen. It's worked for me.
And through this predetermination of life, Willie's music has taken him around the world time after time again. He's met thousands of people from thousands of different backgrounds. But no matter how different individuals may appear, there's a common ground Willie has noticed across all humans.
I've learned that we're all pretty much alike. That no matter where you live or what you look like, what color you are, what country you're from, we're all pretty much the same. And what makes me and you laugh or cry, chances are it'll make everyone else laugh or cry. Because we all have basically the same emotions. Traveling around singing in other places, in London and France and different places. And it's all the same. People are the same all over the world. They like music.
The common interest of music across the world brings people together in an incomparable way. Perhaps this is because of the strong connection music has in relation to love.
Music and love go together pretty good because people who like music love music, and whether it's Beethoven or Hank Williams or Bob Wills, whatever, if you like it, it's great. And it brings people together, and we can all sit around and talk about our favorite whatever, and drink a beer and for Hank Williams and whatever. But people drive from hundreds of miles to come see somebody sing, where they can join in, clap their hands and sing along, whether it's gospel, country, jazz, whatever. Music brings people together. It's a great unifier.
And Willie's music has brought all kinds of people together across the globe. Despite this commercial success, he He claims he's always done his best to avoid the business side of the music industry. Willie's preference to have creative freedom over his art is a large factor in why it resonates with so many people.
Well, there's always the music industry. There's always the business part of it. And I've always tried to dodge that part of it because I didn't really want to go along with all those things where it has to be done this way. A song has to be 2 minutes long or has to have this and that in it. So the music industry or the music business and I never did really gel that well.
This level of authenticity is prominent across all of Willie's work, especially his involvement in social activism. Willie has participated and endorsed many different causes over the years. The one he is most heavily involved in is Farm Aid. In 1985, he set up Farm Aid with Neil Young and John Mellencamp. The organization supports and increases awareness of the importance of family farms. To this day, Willie is still the president of the board of Farm Aid. Through a combination of activism and music, Willie uses his voice to spread his message across the world.
Well, somebody one time said, one person can't change the world, but one person carrying a message can change the world. And that's what I think is going on now. I think a lot of young people are realizing that their voice is ready to be heard. They are really important, and they feel that importance, and they know that they have to do something. You know, when you see something wrong, you sit around and you can say, well, I'm either going to do something or I'm going to do nothing. You have to make a decision. And a lot of the kids out there are saying, wait a minute, we can do something.
Despite his efforts, there seems to be a political divide in the world that remains today. No matter the circumstances, everyone seems to have the view that their view is the only view.
There is a few people out there that really don't get it, you know, that are kind of hung up somewhere. I don't know how you ever communicate with everybody and get everybody to say, hey, things ain't right. But the majority of the people that I talk to already realize that whatever's going on now ain't right. There's something wrong.
In the way we talk to each other?
That, and of course the way we vote, you know, there's a divide out there between these thinkers and these thinkers. And everyone thinks they're right, and we're not all right.
Throughout his music, writing, and activism, Willie hopes to unite these divided people. As he has said, a person with a message is capable of changing the world.
You have to be in a constant state of revolution or you're dead.
That's the part of the performance that I enjoy the most, where I have a chance just to pick up vibrations from the music and what's coming from the audience, just kind of follow it wherever it goes.
It's kind of like secular religion in a way, I guess.
And you could say that the Doors' performances with Jim Morrison gave off a religious, or more accurately, spiritual energy that is hard to put into words. But what is it that congregated thousands of people together to witness these spectacles? Was it the sheer talent of the band, or was it something much deeper? Jim explains a sense of empowerment that like-minded individuals feel when assembling in large crowds. He takes this analysis a step further when he breaks down the swarming theory.
I think in a way, rock concerts have always served a function. It gives a lot of people with the same station in life a chance to gather together and kind of assemble and just feel the sheer mass of them that exists, the numbers.
I think people enjoy being in crowds. It gives them a feeling of power and security in a strange way. They like to rub up against hundreds of other people that are like them. Kind of reinforces their truth. It has something to do with swarming theory. The idea that in insect and animal species, when the population starts outstripping the food supply, the animals or insects swarm together. It's a way of communicating and working out a solution, or making each other, signaling their awareness that there is a danger. And in nature, somehow a balance is worked out. For example, in LA or New York, in many big cities, you feel crowded. You feel psychologically crowded and just physically crowded. People are getting very neurotic and paranoid. And I guess things like rock concerts are a form of human swarming to communicate this unease about the population.
But not every band is able to take advantage of swarming. There's a level of authenticity it takes for a group of artists to generate a massive fan base like The Doors. In order for artists to do this, they need to connect with their audience on a relatable level.
What the people want, they want an artist or a band to come along that's just totally casting aside all the past and all the business associations. They have to give the impression we're doing this for a reason. It's not because we're out here to make a lot of bread off you people, you know. They want to feel that the group is a part of their community rather than something that's being laid on from somewhere else on top of it.
Community is often found when individuals with strong and often outlying ideological beliefs band together to create a movement. And part of the community found in Jim's fan base are those that were involved in the anti-war movement of the 60s. 5 years before the Vietnam War ended, Jim shared his views on war in this 1970 interview with Tony Thomas.
Jim, I don't think there's any topic that has sort of defined the young revolution more than the topic of war. I don't know anyone who's really in favor of war, but today we seem to have an entire young generation absolutely opposed to the very idea of it.
And probably because they're the ones that always fight the wars. They're the human fodder for the war machine. There just seems to be no way around it. There's just no cause. I'm sure that the whole basis of the war going on now is economic. I think young people just got tired of being grist for the mill. It's a funny thing. From the comfortable position of your TV set in your living room, war is a very, no matter how horrible, it's the horror, it makes it very glamorous, you know. It's a great drama, life and death right there, a struggle. And we're all infected from youth, you know, with little kids running around playing war and playing cowboys and Indians or whatever. You know, it's somehow it's just ingrained in you from the beginning that there's something heroic, you know, proving yourself in battle and all that kind of thing.
The anti-war movement rejected the traditional idea of the war hero, the person who is revered for their participation in violence and conflict. Throughout all of history, society has always felt the need to worship some kind of hero. Here Jim predicts what kind of heroes people will be looking up to in the future.
I think the new heroes will probably be political activists. In the 20s, it was sports figures. 30s and 40s, it was movie stars and World War II aces and all that kind of thing. Then the music figures became the heroes. I think the next heroes will probably be a more intellectual sort, political activists and perhaps scientists and computer experts, people like that. People that have an understanding, an intellectual awareness, and a knowledge of how things run, how modern society runs, and they'll probably be the new heroes.
This was a fairly accurate prediction considering some of the popular figures prominent in today's society. In another interview, Jim had another accurate prediction that had to do with the future of music. His description of combining machines with vocals is a foresight into what became the hip-hop genre.
The new generation's music will be, they might rely heavily on electronics, tapes, I can kind of envision maybe one person with a lot of machines, tapes, and electronic setups, singing or speaking and using machines.
What Jim may not have predicted is that this newfound reliance on technology, whether it be in music or more broadly in culture, has developed a neglected attitude toward physical touch. As society progresses, we tend to experience life as a second-hand reproduction of reality, rather than witnessing it firsthand, even more now than in Jim's time.
Somehow, life gets restricted to what can be seen, rather than what can be touched or experienced physically. I don't know whether it's a natural, civilized human fear of involvement, because touch, physical involvement, leads to all the, the real basic existential moments in life. Sex, death, love, they have really nothing to do with seeing, experiencing secondhand. You have to get in there and actually do it. There just seems to be some kind of natural, civilized inclination to avoid contact with the nitty-gritty of life.
This preference toward mechanical labor over human beings embracing the nitty-gritty in life is partially responsible for what Jim calls the feminization of society.
Do you think there's much of a difference in the style of life affecting the man-woman relationship today?
Well, when you look at history, it seems to be cyclical. There have been many periods in history where women were the major controlling influence in life. Matriarchal societies and all that kind of thing. I think women are becoming increasingly important. It's a ridiculous thing to try and talk about, in such simple terms, but I think the influence of women is becoming more and more felt. Life is becoming more and more feminized. There's no frontier to conquer, and hunting and fishing and all that. It's not a basic survival thing. And in a highly complex and industrialized system which we're engaged in, machines take the place of an earnest day-to-day tackling of survival, and when that disappears, then you get increased feminization.
Are these advancements in civilization worth the repression? It seems like no matter what problems we solve, from technological to political, there's always new problems that arise from our initial solutions. Every effort we make to advance civilization dilutes the human consciousness further and further from its original state.
That's the basic problem, whether progress, the progress of civilization, the evolution of civilized culture is really worth it. And, there have been some amazing accomplishments, beautiful accomplishments, but the question is it worth it? Is it worth the repression? And that's something everyone has to answer every second of their life.
Why haven't you done any interviews in the past few years?
Because I hate them.
Why?
I just hate them. I hate talking to people I don't really know. It's the media basically built me up being a real ogre and a tyrant on stage, because the way I come across on stage, I'm very volatile, and that's the only part they see of me. I mean, if I don't talk to everybody, so they don't really know the real me. And I don't think anybody will.
Her Majesty, Queen!
And the winner is Another One Bites the Dust, Queen!
The top band of the 80s are Queen.
Special award for an outstanding contribution to British music, Queen.
Freddie Mercury.
Freddie Mercury is commonly regarded as one of the greatest artists in the history of rock music. Leading Queen to their rise of fame, his 4-octave vocal range and flamboyant stage presence established the sound and look of the band. Despite the powerful image he portrayed on stage, he didn't feel the need to gratify this persona when he stepped out of the spotlight. In this interview from 1985, he gives us a glimpse into the real Freddie Mercury.
I'd like to feel that after all these years, I'm myself at every given point. When I'm on stage, that's Freddie Mercury. When I'm off stage, I'm Freddie Mercury. And that's the only way to be. I mean, the days have gone where I actually felt that when I was on stage, when I came off, I still had to sort of portray that Freddie Mercury image because of other people. I used to do that before because you have to grow up and you have to understand. You have to really come to grips with success. And over the years, I found out that you can become a very, very lonely person if you have to do that. And I'm not afraid when I come off stage to actually be myself, which is, it can be very, very boring and mundane. But most people, and in fact, quite a lot of people, when they meet me, they're quite disillusioned. The fact that they expect me to actually just do what I do on stage. And I'm a human being, and I'd like people to realize the fact that I'm a human being. And then I can sort of react that way. And I have the same feelings, same kind of destructive qualities. I'm bad and good, like everybody else. And I'd like people to think that they should allow me that kind of freedom as well. So, I'm just being me all the time. And at this moment in time, I'd like to feel that I'm just being my honest self and I don't give a shit about what other people say.
And he's made that clear in this interview. The way Freddie describes his onstage persona to the way he acts in his day-to-day life are complete opposites. Thus, he labels himself as a man of extremes.
The way I look at myself, if I ever do, is I'm a man of extremes. I don't really analyze myself to that degree, but you always have a certain amount, an idea of what you're all about. And I think my character on stage is totally different to what I am off stage, as far as I'm concerned. And I think every character is made up of a load of ingredients. And I just think I have a very soft side and a very hard side. Don't feel I have that much in the middle. You either get me where I'm very strong or I'm very soft. So if the right person gets me, they'll find me that I'm very vulnerable and I can be a real baby if they find me the right time. At the same time, I'm very strong and very hard. And there's no half measures with me. It can be very precarious. It can be very hard because, sometimes somebody can get you when you're very soft and they can tread all over you, which has happened a lot of times. But then sometimes people meet me and they're very hard. When I'm hard, I'm very strong. And nobody can get through to me. So it's a combination of both those. I'm very soft and very hard. Somehow that is my circulation. That's my whole life. But it depends on who is around. And I just open up all the doors and then they find out I'm very, very soft and they just tread all over me. So it's a combination of both.
Perhaps this exploitation of Freddie's soft side is why he felt the need to hide behind his work.
Sometimes you hide behind your work in the end, that's the only thing you got. What happens is you basically you just want to go on stage and there are all these people who are, it's very gratifying, they all sort of want you or they adulate, but you're still untouchable. But that to me is about as far as I can go. That's my fantasy, And then I come back to reality and I don't have anybody to actually sort of give me that. And when I have nothing else to do, I hide behind that. That's what keeps me going. The higher I climb up that ladder, the bigger the barrier becomes around me. And I don't know why, but I'm quite willing to open up to a lot of people because that's what an individual like me wants. But I find the more I open up, the more I get hurt. So basically what happens is I'm just riddled with scars, and I just don't want any more. I don't want any more. So you do shut yourself off. It is an awful thing. In terms of that, you talk, it doesn't mean it's just me. I think everybody has that kind of thing. It doesn't matter what you are. It doesn't mean that all these people like everybody. They all have their pros and cons. Okay, because I'm successful and I have a lot of money, you have a lot of greedy people that want, but that's something that I've learned, and it's part of something that I've taken on, and I have to learn to deal with it.
This dynamic of his immense success, combined with this soft personality that people can take advantage of, can surely create some complicated problems when it comes to forming relationships.
So basically, when it comes to a relationship, it doesn't matter who you are, if you're the Queen of England or Mary Potts from Bognor. When it comes to love and a relationship, you're equal. And then when it comes down to terms of success, when you're a celebrity or whatever, it's hard to approach somebody and say, look, you are normal underneath it. You have to sort of, and so I think you are handicapped. Basically, you have to sort of overcompensate in that way. And basically, what happens then is that you're trying so hard to tell other people that, look, you're normal underneath in terms of love, whatever. It just so happens that I'm successful and I have a lot of money, and then and when that happens, you find yourself in a very, very sort of difficult and vulnerable position, because then what happens is they tread all over you.
It's clear that Freddie is a very complex person, an artist, a man of extremes with a susceptibility to being walked over. Despite the complicated scope of Freddie Mercury, he is able to sort some of these emotions into his music. In his artistic process, rather than following trends and popularity, Freddie takes a more authentic approach.
I just like to do different things. It's like I don't like to stay in one position for too long. And so that comes out in everything. It comes out in my songs, my lyrics, and I just like to try everything once. And I'm not scared of the pitfalls and things. I'm not worried about saying, my God, this is not my scene. And if I love the challenge, and I like doing things that are not part of the mainstream for me. And sometimes if that works, it works in a very big way. Otherwise it can be a very big flop, but I'm willing to take that risk.
I'm quite aware of what goes on, but that doesn't mean I want to sort of interpret that kind of fashion and trend into my songs. I'm aware of what goes on, but I still write a song the way I feel it. And if it means that a song that I like needs something that's old-fashioned, I will still do it. Because, I never let a song down. A song comes first. So basically, I do whatever I like, but I'm aware of what goes on. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to pinch it or say that that's exactly what I should do. I don't like to write message songs because I'm not sort of politically orientated. I'm not like a John Lennon or a Stevie Wonder. I just feel that my songs are just basically commercial love songs, and I like to put my emotional talent into that. I don't personally feel I'm capable of writing peace messages and things like that, because I'm not in that sort of in that environment. I don't want to put myself in that environment. I'm into basically writing songs about what I feel about. And basically what I feel very strongly about is love and emotion. And I think my solo album is filled with that in various different attitudes and ways. And as far as I'm concerned, I hope people believe in the fact that I do go through torture and pain in terms of love and whatever. And that's all I want to write about. It comes easy for me, and I think that's my natural gift. So that's all I want to do.
With such a grounded understanding of his writing process and musical goals, you might think that Freddie has clear-cut ideas of what his songs mean. However, Freddie would prefer for his listeners to come up with their own analysis of his music.
People can take it any way they want. People can take it and relate to it in any way they want. I hate, to be honest, in the end, even in interviews or even in sort of any kind of chat shows or whatever, I hate actually trying to analyze my songs to the full. It's like people still ask me what Bohemian Rhapsody is about, and I say, I don't know. It actually sort of ruins a kind of imagination or whatever, or something that people have built up. And I will say as much as I can about certain songs I write, but in the end I don't like to analyze it, because I don't analyze songs myself. I just sing them, I write them, and I record them and produce them. And then it's up to the individual buyer to actually buy it the way that he or she feels it. Because otherwise I ruin a kind of mystique that might portray that track. So I hate doing that.
Looking back, we've learned about Freddie's on-off stage complexities, his thoughts on relationships, as well as the way he expresses these feelings in his music. But what does he care about most? There's one emotion he holds to a higher caliber than anything else in life.
The most important thing to me is to be happy, to be honest, to have fun. And depending on whatever I do, of course music is important to me, and because that's my life. And as long as, I'll carry on as long as I write music and people want to buy it. That's important to me, but that's not the be all and the end all. They're very, to me, happiness is is the most important thing. And if I'm happy, then it shows in my work.
The happiness he valued so dearly continues to live on through his music and fans. Despite losing his battle with AIDS on November 24th, 1991,
Freddie Mercury confirmed at the weekend that he had AIDS, and he died last night at the age of 45.
Freddie left behind a legacy that will never be forgotten, and a library of music we can all enjoy until the end of time. Rest in peace to the rock and roll legend we all love, Freddie Mercury.
I always had this thing inside me. I had a light, I had a love, and though I lost my way, and I acted like an asshole many a time, and I beat myself up, and I was thoughtless and insensitive to other people, I always came back to it. Anything that's coming from a place of love and caring will guide you in a positive way. The first step is asking yourself, is this act that I'm doing, is it coming from love or is it coming from fear? Every creative adventure that I embark on opens me up, and I learn, and I become a better person. I become deeper, I become kinder, I become more compassionate, I become more understanding. My best piece of career advice is to work from a place of love.
It is clear that love is the main principle that fuels Flea's creativity, though parts of his childhood seem to contradict this value, one of those being his relationship with his stepfather. Despite a violent nature present in his stepfather's actions, Flea gained valuable insight from the way he poured his emotions into playing the upright bass.
He was a difficult person, he was a drug addict, and he was prone to really irrational fits of violence and stuff. But he was also an unbelievably great musician, and he also loved me with everything that he knew how. He just had, was battling his own demons and had a really hard time, and I learned so much about myself and how I grew in my yearning and my search to get to understand what happened when I was a kid. And I realized that I learned from him that when he played and he was just gone, he played the upright bass, and he would play with this very physical, emotionally, I could see him, it meant everything in the world to him when he was playing, that he was taking all the pain and torment of his own life and turning it into something beautiful. And only when I started writing about it, I realized that's what I do. Of all the loneliness, the rejection, the pain, the anxiety, the panic that I felt in my life, I take it out on my instrument. When I'm playing, all I'm doing is every note is a fucking prayer, and I want to exercise all the pain that I feel and try to turn it into something beautiful to uplift people. The animal part of me, which I just see, which can be completely undisciplined, flying into a rage, can be channeled to take things like feelings of isolation and pain and anxiety that I've had all my life, and attack something with a violence, music, in a way that it's my most animal self, but I'm dealing with these feelings, turning them into something beautiful, which is a true alchemy. And so I guess all my life is trying to marry those two things, where do they come together? And, that is a challenge for me.
And when he's able to funnel these two things into his creativity, he can enter a state of mind that is beyond thought. Something that is subconscious, almost meditative. It's this feeling that Flea has developed a deep yearning for. Another way of reaching this state is through physical movement.
In my yearning to mix it up and to get to a place when I was playing music and I was totally beyond thought, and I love basketball. I played basketball every day, and because in that motion and that lost in the game, I got beyond thought. It's this telepathic game. There's that feeling of being lost in a process, flowing with what I'm supposed to be, and I think that physical movement is something we're supposed to do in order to have any happiness. Everything I did where I didn't think, I would be happy, and it was because I was yearning for this a spiritual state. That's what being enlightened is. It's beyond thought. But it wasn't until much later that I learned getting beyond thought didn't mean being thoughtless. And for me, that was a real big me coming to terms with something about myself.
Another exercise Flea uses to transcend beyond thought and unlock his highest potential is meditation, a practice he was introduced to in the early 90s, when Rick Rubin introduced the entire group of the Red Hot Chili Peppers to transcendental meditation. This form of meditation focuses on repeating a silent mantra in one's head while easing the self of all other thoughts.
Rick Rubin was the first person who taught me to meditate, who brought me and Anthony to a transcendental meditation class. And it changed my life forever. It was through meditation when I started considering, like, if I'm sitting here meditating and I would have those moments when actually I didn't have any thought, I wasn't conscious of my body, and I started thinking about, well, what is it? What am I? If I'm not my thoughts, and I'm not my body, and I'm not like the images or the talk that flows through my head, what am I? If you get beyond that, like that thing that is nothing, which is the core of who we are, like if you can know that part of yourself, you have the potential to unlock your greatest self, you know? And I'm no, spiritual teacher, I'm no New Age spiritual teacher, but I'm a humble student. And when I learned that, it changed my life. Yeah, completely. And that was when I really started considering that silence, that thing that exists independent of all thought and physical activity, is who I am. And that made me feel like, in the moments when I felt that, I felt connected to everything, to every sentient thing. I still, I am always striving for that feeling of connectivity.
Around the same time he learned how to meditate, he also quit drugs. Whether it be pain and suffering, or happiness and bliss, it was at this point Flea felt the need to feel every emotion, no matter the circumstances.
When I stopped doing drugs, I wanted to feel everything. I wanted to feel all the pain, all the suffering, all the anxiety, the boredom, the stuff that's mundane, the thrilling stuff, the traumatic, difficult stuff. I wanted to feel everything because I knew that the only way that I was going to grow was to feel it. And I know that we all yearn to be as deep as we can be, to be as kind and compassionate and as good as we can be. And the only way to be that is to feel your pain and to sit there and let it wash over you. And like now, I'm not a religious man, but I believe in God and I pray. And when I'm hurting and I feel terrible, I get on my knees and I say, dear God, give me some more. Thank you. I know nothing. Thank you. Help me. And I know that within my suffering, I will grow. In feeling my pain and in feeling my stuff and everything that was ever hard for me. And look, my life compared to many is a cakewalk. And people have way more difficult lives than me. But the depth of pain and anxiety that I have felt in my life, like every time I sat there and I didn't sleep for 3 days because it hurt so fucking bad to be inside my skin, in those times, I knew that if I sat through it consciously and I felt it consciously and I was grateful for it consciously, that I would be a deeper, kinder, happier person. So my great advice is to never run away from anything. No matter how much you get fucked over, you get betrayed, the world is unjust, feel it all and be the most righteous person you can be. And don't hold bitterness, forgive people. When I say forgive, I don't mean not having boundaries, not being, standing up for yourself. But the power of forgiveness is a powerful fucking thing. Because if you don't forgive someone for something that happened, all your energy is back at that other place. You're walking through life with half your energy, Forgive people, own yourself, and positivity will be an organic and natural thing.
In 2019, Flea wrote a memoir about his childhood titled Acid for the Children. The book takes the audience on a wild adventure through Flea's unconventional childhood. Although the book ends at the point before the Red Hot Chili Peppers even began, Flea still thanks the audience in the same way he would at the end of a concert.
The very last line of your book is, "Thanks for reading my childhood." It's an honor as a reader. So why are you thanking us?
The same reason that I thank every time I walk off of a stage at a concert, I thank everybody. Anytime I do anything, I thank everybody. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to express myself. I don't think that my story is anything special or different. I have my life and it's mine. I think like anyone here or anyone in the street, if you really learned their story, you'd be amazed. Like the most mundane seeming person has a fascinating life. even if it might be buried under a sea of whatever, the distractions they put in front of themselves. We're all so magical inside, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity, for one, to be conscious enough about who I am, to be able to tell my story. But if I couldn't share it, you know what I mean? Like, our stories are so valuable, and I feel like in a time like now, especially now in this country, where people are really suffering in a way that I've never seen in my life. There's a divisiveness and a hatred and a coldness. People are defensive. People are afraid. And it's our stories that bring us together. It's our stories that help us understand one another. So, we have to share, and we have to read the ones. We have to know about what people in Nigeria are feeling, and what people in Syria are feeling, and what people, everywhere are feeling. And we need to embrace these stories, even the ones that might seem like ugly or cold. Like, we have to know, we have to learn to love each other, or we're just fucking doomed. So I'm just so grateful to be a part of that.
Do you play instruments?
Barely.
Do you know how to work a soundboard?
No. I have no technical ability, and I know nothing about music. Knowing how it works isn't what makes it work. Isn't the magic of it isn't how it works. The magic is the magic. Coming up with a story with the purpose of pleasing someone else is a skill set. It's more of a commercial endeavor than an artistic endeavor. And the call came, how do you feel? You have the #1 album in the country. And I remember saying, I've never been more unhappy in my life.
So what are you being paid for?
The confidence that I have in my taste and my ability to express what I feel has proven helpful for artists.
Rick Rubin is a creative genius. He's produced a vast variety of artists, including the Beastie Boys, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Eminem, Adele, and even Johnny Cash. With a track record like his, he is arguably one of the most influential music producers of all time. Although known for his music production, his recent book, The Creative Act, has garnered huge attention. The subtitle of the book is A Way of Being, and I can't think of a better way to describe Rick's creative relationship with the universe. Here he compares the creative process of life to riding a wave.
The universe is pushing us in a direction, and we can ride with that energy. And like when you're surfing, if you really try to fight the wave, it's probably not going to work. Mm-hmm. We try to use the power of the wave where we're almost dancing with the wave, not against the wave. And that's the work of creativity as well. Certain projects come together very easily, and they happen quickly, and they have a momentum to them, and others are a real fight. Sometimes we fight that fight, and other times we decide, is there a path of less resistance around this? Is there a better way in? Let's rethink, well, if it's so hard, something's up. Not supposed to be so hard. Again, it's wildly time-consuming, takes a great deal of focus, takes patience. But if there are no signs that something's working for a long time, that might be a time to step back, step away.
Rick speaks of the things we make as reflections of our being. No one will create the same thing as someone else. He mentions the importance of staying true to yourself, letting your ideas flow through you, and being sure not to compare yourself to others in the process.
The things we make are a reflection of who we are in this moment. And that's all it is. It can go on and mean more than that, but that's not in our control. And it's something that cripples artists, thinking, I have to make the greatest thing ever made to humankind, and then they basically psych themselves out of being able to make something good. They give in to the pressure of thinking it's more than it is. We all imagine such different worlds, and it's why if we don't make the thing we want to make, if someone else's antenna is more tuned to ours, and they pick up the same source material, the thing they make, it's not going to be the same thing we would make. No one can do our part. There's a great benefit in taking a risk, making the thing that's interesting to you, sharing it with the world, because if you don't do it, nobody else will. You're the only one who can make the art that you can make. And it's not in competition with anyone else. There is no competition. There's no competition who has a better picture in their head. It's a reflection of you. Everything that you make is a reflection of who you are. And how you live in the world will impact the things that you make. And I wish the best of luck on the journey in making beautiful things that we can all enjoy.
And audiences have enjoyed Rubin's work. With an immense amount of listeners worldwide, I am curious how he views the audience and what kind of influence they might have on his work.
The audience comes last in service to the audience. The audience wants the best thing. They don't get the best thing while you're trying to service them. They get the best thing when you're servicing yourself, when you're true to who you are. And the more you can trust yourself as an artist, in my case, every decision I've made, from working in a different genre than I started in, every time I do something different or new, I'm always told not to do it. I'm always told it's a terrible idea. But I know it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. I know what I know, and my job is to share what I know. That's all I can do. Right. I can't second guess myself. Steve Jobs said, famously, the consumer doesn't know what they want.
Until you make it.
Yeah.
Despite his success, Rick has suffered from depression over the years. He got to a point in his 30s when it seemed like all hope was lost, although what appeared to be a closed door led to an awakening experience in Malibu.
I've suffered with depression at different times in my life. The mystical piece was, in the throes of the depression, one of the things that would help me, I would drive to Malibu, and we had a little house, a tiny little shack on the beach, and that I was renting, and I would sit in that house, and usually I would get some of the heaviness would lift. So one day I went to Malibu, nothing, listened to classical music, relaxed, meditated for hours, did all the things that would help get me out, and nothing got me out, and I was devastated. And in that moment of hopelessness, I prayed, universe, please give me a sign. Please give me a sign to go on, because I don't think I can go on. Please give me a sign. And I walked out to the beach, which was something I never did, or rarely did. I walked out to the beach, and I'm standing out on the beach, and in 1 minute, the entire sky turned into the most dramatic, orange, wild, biblical painting. I've never seen anything like it up till that moment. Never seen anything like it since. I walk out, I experience that. It blows my mind. I feel like my answer is, I'm being spoken to. And then within a minute, gone back to normal blue sky. I felt less alone. I felt like I could, my cry for help was heard. And I felt connected. And that felt really good.
Taking from his mystical experience, Rick mentions that the answers to our problems don't all come from inside of us. If we remain conscious, we can find solutions by simply being open to the influence of the outside world.
It's helpful to know the information we need doesn't all come from inside of us. Maybe none of it comes from inside of us. Maybe it all comes from outside of us. And whether that be mystical, physical, or practical, I've had experiences where I'm looking for an answer for something, curious, holding it lightly in my consciousness, not working on it, just I know there's this problem to be solved. And then I'll be out and something will happen in the world directly related to answer the question. Doesn't happen once in a while, it happens all the time. If you're open to the communication, we're getting information all the time. There's so much more information coming at us than we can digest that we pick and choose unconsciously certain data points, and then based on those data points, we make up a story about what happens. It's different for everybody. There's so much wisdom all around us all of the time, coming in the form of nature, the culture, people speaking at a coffee shop, overhearing a conversation. If you're open and if you're paying attention, and I would even go further to say, and if you invite it, it might work even better. I don't know if that's true, but why not? And because of the subtle nature of the information that we're looking for, it's not getting shouted at us. It's the thing that if you weren't really quiet and really paying attention, you would likely miss. So we have to quiet ourselves, and we have to live in this constant state of looking for clues, looking for information. What can I learn? What shapes align? Where are their connections? If I look deeper, what's happening? That's the practice.
Yeah.
And there are some suggestions of things that you can do to get there. For me, meditation is a key. It may not be everyone's. That's the other point of this, is we all function in different ways. We each have to find what works for us and try things and see what works.
There's certain choices we make in life that most people wouldn't view as being creative decisions, as well as people we meet that we wouldn't necessarily consider artists. But Rick has the intriguing view of simple everyday tasks being creative choices, with these choices contributing to a bigger universal picture devised by artists.
All of us make creative choices every day of our lives. We've driven the same route every day and we decide to take the scenic route. That's a creative choice. If we're paying attention, and if you happen to notice something that day on the scenic route that you didn't notice before, and that ends up helping you in the thing that you're working on, maybe it's a coincidence, but when you come to expect it to happen, it happens all the time. Be prepared to be awestruck and surprised on a regular basis by things that you would never imagine happening. Also, you feel like you're part of this bigger thing. We think of ourselves as the conductor, but we're not the conductor. We're an orchestra member being conducted. And we're part of this bigger thing that's going on, and it works like clockwork. Every one of us plays part, and we all have our part to play. So when someone says, I'm not artistic or I'm not good at art, it'd be like saying I'm not a good monk. There is no such thing as not a good monk. You're either living your life as a monk or you're not living your life as a monk. Monks aren't good or bad. You're either doing a monk or you're not doing a monk. And we all live as artists, but we don't know it. And there are things we can do to amplify the artistic side of ourselves that will make everything we do better. Everything. Your relationships, your ability to communicate, your ability to listen, your joy of life, your feeling of connection, your ability to commune with nature. It's like taking off blinders.